Nevertheless, throughout the 18th century, issues of sexuality were the ones that powered the rise of the novel, and authors tried various methods to put them over, including anonymity, wit, endless, and perhaps numbing, detail, a cautionary tone. Novel in the United States at the end of 18th century and the beginning of the 19th, and the sheer brazen excess. On the surface, it may be that subject of romance seemed simple as well as appealing. To 18th century authors, what could be easier than to bring the attractive young woman and the manly fellow to the altar after a few exciting adventures? It is the standard plot of multitude of plays, but in fact, the use of actors and public nature of the stage circumscribed what the authors could portray, as did, of course, laws against lasciviousness, and public nakedness. As soon as character is alone in her chamber, though writing a letter, like Pamela, or hiding out, like Roxana, the pressure on propriety intensifies. The character may set out only to report his or her adventures, but because the novel always moves between action and reflection, soon enough he or she is bringing to bear his or her intentions, desires, regrets, fears, self justification, and other more secret thoughts. If the character tries to merely report actions, they quickly become confusing because without feelings, actions don't carry enough emotional weight to remain clear in the reader's mind. If the character tries to merely report actions, they quickly becomes confusing because without feelings, actions don't carry enough emotional weight to remain clear in the reader's mind. But as soon as the character begins to develop a rationale for his or her actions, the narrative moves towards a confession. And what good is a confession if the character has nothing to confess? That is, no moral dilemma, no temptation to be delivered from. Without drama, a novel ceases to be entertaining and therefore loses its reason to exist. In addition, of course, 18th century novelists, like novelists before and after them, were eager to depict the world they lived in, and in the world they lived in seduction, sexual predation, rape, sexual slavery, marriages of convenience, marriage based solely on property consideration, prostitution, child abandonment, the sale of children into servitude of all kinds, and of course, disease, sufferings, and early deaths were commonplace. To raise the simple moral issue of whether a death was commonplace, issue of whether a girl should be allowed to fall in love with a man of her own choice or be required to marry the man of her parents' choice was entered into a train of logic that could lead to all sorts of much more complex and difficult moral questions. One way to deal with these issues was to address the moral content directly, which is what Voltaire does in Candide 1759, when he has Dr. Pangloss propose that everything is for the best in the best of all possible worlds. Candide himself, his beloved Kungold, and Dr. Pangloss then set out upon a whirlwind tour of the unknown world to test his hypothesis. The answer they come up with is considerably different and more brutal than the answer Quixote comes of it, whereas Quixote is beaten from time to time and tricked and disease illusions. Candid find wars, famines, epidemics, slavery, gratuitous brutality, and destruction of every kind, political, personal, environmental, social. No person and no place, except for El Dorado, far from Europe, entirely surrounded by impassable mountains and the rich beyond compare, is immune from the whole heart Hobbesian conflict of all against all, and no character, even beautiful Crogont. 음, 맛있어, 맛있어. Where am I up to? Hobbesian conflict of all against all, and no character. Even the beautiful crown god is safe from the effects of the world. Evil is everywhere. Candide succeed as a polemic, but it doesn't succeed as a novel. Precisely because Voltaire sets out his program too clearly and hardly bothers with his novelistic duties of character and plot development. Surprisingly, it is the disrespectful Justin by the disreputable Marquis de Sade that makes the point of Voltaire hoped to make with the impact Voltaire intended. Justin was published in 1791 during the French Revolution, and the novel theme, you might say, is the right of every man of rank to do whatever he wants with any woman he can gain access to, preferably by force. He can gain access to, preferably by force. The catalogue of brutalized and exploited women in Justin runs the gamut from legitimately married wives and daughters of great families to nameless girls from the street and includes the examples of every rank and type in between. According to De Sade, being sold into marriage is the least of it. Women are also sold into slavery, thievery, and prostitution. They are turned over by the guardians to torture and necrophiliacs if their guardians themselves don't care to torture and rape them. Young girls are routinely betrayed, and both women and men